Good morning, small business owners in the Bunbury and Southwest region. Welcome to BSW Connect's This Week in Business. It's Anthony Condon here from Rethink Marketing, and I'm with Kingsley from
RWK. For middle blank people.
Yes. We are missing Louise, who's busy sunning it up in Broome, I think, before life changes dramatically.
Yes.
Yeah. And this week we're going to have a look at a couple of things which are on coming along. I'm not sure if we've talked about this. I've been away for a couple of weeks, but we did a survey of business sentiment across the Southwest recently, and it'll come as no surprise to anyone that the numbers are looking buoyant. We had around about 80% of business owners expecting the local economy to grow in this quarter that we're into now. And that's being evidenced out in my conversations, certainly with businesses. Are you hearing that as well, Kingsley?
As it happens, yeah, exactly. Even if anything, more so in the sense of we're, of course, in the throes now of going through people's figures to say, cheapest, you need to do something to get your tax down. And we were fully expecting that there'll be many in that case. But I've been staggered, actually, by the people that I thought might have done sort of pretty good have, in some cases, wow. So if we're being surprised, it's absolutely on the upside that if someone has gone different to what we expected, they've gone much, much better. And so it's, there's a lot of people that have had a great result. And then, again, with what we've been looking at, we've extrapolating through some of these things with the depreciation sort of thing. It's on the flip side, having gone really, really well, I think a lot of people are going to find that actually maybe they won't have that much tax. So they will have a lot of money. They'll get to keep it. It'll get a bit uglier next year because it's a one-off sort of a thing. But yeah, right now, most people are, there are a few exceptions, but in hospitality or travel agent or something like that. But the vast majority of people are going good, if not really, really good. And hopefully their tax bill, despite being a good profit number, isn't that bad either.
Oh, that's really good to hear. Of course, when things are really buoyant, there are some challenges we run into. One of the big challenges we saw coming through the feedback that we had, and this will be up on the BSW Connect website, we saw a lot of people being quite concerned around staff attraction and retention. That's obviously a big challenge out there at the moment. Skills available in the marketplace down here. There is a bit of a battle on there for skilled people, and that's probably really hotted up in our own local community down here. I know businesses in the hospitality sector and others are finding it very, very difficult to find the right people. But I guess coming out of these things, hopefully we'll get to that number which they're talking about of an unemployment number starting with maybe a 3 at best, but 4, and that will help drive some of these growth that we're all looking to see. Semi-related topic, but one of the things I wanted to touch on today was a very, very old concept that's been kicking around, and we often hear it cliched in business, called the Pareto Principle. For those of you who haven't come across it before, it must date back about 500 years now, I think, roughly, to a mathematician who observed the distribution of wealth in a country was typically split out with 20% of the population owning 80% of the wealth. It's an interesting law because it also comes into, I guess it's a square root equation. You can look at it and graph it out, and it replicates across a lot of spaces. One of the things we see in marketing is people look at it and go, well, this must be true with my marketing activities, must be true with my costs, and you can get a little bit fanatical about it. Do you see that occasionally, Kings?
Yeah, that is my chief concern, I suppose. In a sense, obviously it does indeed have that general application, but people take it so literally. And it's a joke with you that you've got a business that's got 100 customers. There are some people that, having heard about it, are getting ready to, sack their 21st customer because they're in the bottom 80, regardless of who that is or what they might do or how profitable they might be. It's just their analysis is that superficial, having heard of that principle, and where it should just be a guide, not a definitive sort of law of physics almost. But that's what people seem to do a bit.
And I guess it really fails to acknowledge that long tail, that 80%, that remaining 20% in the internet economy and in today's world can be very, very, very long. There can be almost an infinite number of opportunities to contribute those 1%ers. And it's those 1%ers, if everyone's doing the same 20%, which you really cannot, there's only so many things that you can do within that. It's where you do that other 80% and the value you get out of that really determines whether you're going to have that little bit of an edge over your competition or not. There was a good book by Chris Anderson, probably 10, 15 years back now, called The Long Tail, where it highlights the obvious things. We're going to hear about the fact that, probably, and I'm making these numbers up, so I don't have them, but, maybe a third of all books sold in the past 10 years were written by one author. Perhaps J.K. Rowling certainly counted for a heck of a lot of books that were sold. But what it fails to acknowledge is that there's this almost infinitely long number of authors who've sold a small volume of books. And a website like Amazon, where they've got all of those for sale, can account for whatever the tastes of people that are there. You go into that short head, the very short number of books which sell in large volumes, they're going to be in Big W, and you can go in there and pick them up, or Kmart, or whatever the mainstream retailer. But it's the people who are willing to find that extra 80% that create real value for their marketplace. And there's a lot of business out there.
Yeah. And I guess that's the other thing. If you're going to apply it, then you need it in a sense of, here's my 20% that account for 20% of my revenue, but that it's not necessarily that they're 20% of profit. That it's sort of, you and I are in the profession, and so we could have a client who face value pays us a big fee, but is extremely labour intensive and sort of has a sort of, well, I'm a big client, so I should, as I joke, sort of wash my car as well, sort of thing. So you do need to do the second order analysis just to see that they are generating the profit that the theory suggests is the case. But I think you'll always find significant exceptions.
And taking that more in-depth look at it to really get a close view on where the business is coming from. Also looking at things that may be outside of your standard kind of vision. I've come across a business over the years who had nearly 90% of their revenue and profits were coming out of a single client, which was fantastic until that client ended up in administration and they had, bills that they weren't going to be paying, and it was almost a case of starting from the ground up. So looking at that as a risk mitigation, risk evaluation part of the equation, what's your exposure to, one or more clients within your business? Yeah. Something you really want to keep an eye on.
The other thing which I forgot to mention earlier when you and I are chatting about it too is I think sometimes it might be just as useful to invert it, and you might find that your bottom 20% are taking up 80% of your time and so forth. And so rather than sort of say, I'm just going to keep my top 20, maybe you're better off to get rid of your bottom 20.
That's true. Yeah. So it's a principle that's certainly worth having a look at. It's one of those things that's good to get some visibility into how you're looking at your business, and it's just another way of slicing and dicing those numbers, which is something that we encourage everyone to do on a fairly regular basis. Beyond just the headline numbers, really get into what those numbers are made up of, whether it's your costs and your distribution of those, whether it's your customers and your revenue that they're generating, the product lines that you're selling if you're a retail type business. You want to be looking at those numbers on a line by line basis and working out where they sit, and broadly speaking, looking at the Pareto Principle as a useful tool. And it is just a tool, it's a blunt object, so you don't have to be governed by these things, but it's if anything, I guess a mind hack that you can look at it and say, right, how would this fit? Do these numbers fit this profile?
Yeah, I think that it is an excellent sort of kick-off for if you're currently unsatisfied with your profit performance. It's certainly an excellent kick-off to sort of get in and find what the real problem is. It may be that it's certainly not all of the solution, but it will start to get you thinking and looking at all those things that hopefully does lead you to it.
Now, this is always an exciting week for accountants, Kingsley. I think you've got a big day next week with the new budget being released.
Yes.
Any inside tips or perhaps expectations you might have?
Not much has really that's, you've seen things in the media, I suppose, on the spending front. So, I'd have to say it's probably been the smallest number of, not necessarily, normally they're not leaks, they do announce, quite a few things leading up to it. And really there's been the least number I can remember for a long time. So either we're in for a real boring one, or they are indeed saving it up for the night. I can't imagine this in terms of individuals and things. I can't see the tax rates going down. They've accelerated depreciation to the point that you'd almost say depreciation doesn't exist anymore. You just buy stuff and claim it. So it will be interesting.
And then pay it back when you sell the asset at the end of it. Yeah.
Yes, that's so we're having. It'll be interesting to see, because it will be next year where a lot of this pain comes around. But I suspect the timing will work out that the election will have been held before people are probably having the conversations with their accountant about how big the tax bill is. So perhaps the government has worked this out. I don't know, but yeah, I don't really have a great deal of hot tips. I think we are going to have to wait till Tuesday, and then we are hoping to run some tax planning seminars probably about a fortnight after. Louise is booking up a couple of dates, and she has flagged some already, but that should all be finalised, I should think, once we had the budget to say when they are. So we'll be able to give everyone the good oil then.
Fantastic. Well, we look forward to that. And in the meantime, stay safe, everybody, and look forward to seeing you again soon. Thanks a lot for your time.